Hi guys! Today I'm going to be going over a few different techniques to make some friendship bracelets. If you don't know, I'm a big fan of them. I make a few of them myself, so I'm going to go over my favorite ways to make them, so that way you can make them at home. You can use embroidery thread, which is what I'll be using, or yarn works really well. It's easier to tie the knots when you're using that. So I'm going to show you first how I make this one. It's a little weaved one on a cardboard, little piece of cardboard, so it's really easy. It's one of my favorites. It's real quick to do. So how I tie my knots for this one, I just tie a single knot on this one. I don't need to anchor it or anything because it's got its own little anchor that you cut. I cut mine out of a Amazon box. All you need is just a little piece, and then you cut out your square and then cut 8 lines, one on each side, and then you'll need a hole in the middle for your string. So you'll thread it through, and then you'll take your string and put one string in each one. It doesn't matter which one goes where, just as long as they each make their way into a little slit. And for this one, you'll have 8 slits on your cardboard, but you only need 7 strings. That way you can actually move the strings around on the little piece of cardboard. So as you can see, I've got my 7 strings. It can be any color you want. You can have them all be the same color. It can be 7 different colors. It can be 2 colors. It doesn't matter. It's your bracelet. They all look really cool. So I've got my empty one here. So what you do is from the empty one, you go 3. So you'll go 1, 2, 3. You'll pick up your 3rd string and move it to that empty spot. And then from this empty spot, you'll count your 1, 2, 3 and move it over. And you'll just kind of keep doing that over and over and over again. And eventually, it'll make its way to being what I showed you before, which will look like this. They look really cool. You can do lots of different things with them, and once you get the hang of that, you can actually make string, the cardboard bits that hold up to 16 strings, and you can make some really cool designs with those. The next one I'm going to show is something called a Chinese staircase, and I don't have a example of it out. I have one on my wrist that is from a while ago, and so it'll make a little loop business on it. So I'm going to use this little bunch of string. On this one, you can use as many strings as you want. Just keep in mind, the more strings you use, the thicker it's going to get. So what you want to do is you're going to take one string out from all of them. I have 5 strings on this, and you're going to create a 4. So what that means is you're going to take your first string and create a little 4 out of it, something like that perhaps, and then you go underneath it, and then you'll tie your little knot, and you'll pull it all the way up and make sure it's pretty tight, and you'll just keep doing that again and again. Once you kind of get the hang of it, it'll be easier to just tie a knot as if it were going to be super tight right there and then. So you just keep pulling it up over and over again, and it will eventually start making a little staircase that goes around and around the bracelet. So we'll do a few of those real quick. And as you can kind of see now, if you can see that word, it's kind of doing a little stairway that's going to end up going around, and you can do that as many times as you want. Once you're kind of done using that color, you choose whichever color is going to be next. I'm going to use this little orange, and you just start doing the same thing, tying your little knot around it and pulling it all the way up to where you ended that last color, and it too will do the little spiral. They're really cool, really fun to make. I enjoy those. Moving on to one of my favorites. I make them all the time. In fact, it's The one that's on my wrist the most is the candy stripe, which looks a little bit something like this. This one was made out of yarn, so it's a little bit bulkier. This one too, you can use as many colors as you like, but keep in mind the more colors you use, the more strings you use, it gets thicker and thicker. So for this one, you're going to have to separate all of your strings into a little pattern that you like. So make sure your strings are in order of what you're going to have them in the bracelet. I'm going to go orange and then white. So I'm going to do my little 4 again with the orange and the white. I'm completely disregarding these colors at the moment. With my orange, I'm going to make that 4 over the white and tie that knot to the very top. I like to repeat this like 4 or 5 times. So making that little 4, pulling it all the way up. And that'll make your little color band for the first string. Once you've done it, the amount of times you like, you'll be able to see it and see if that's how big you want it. You'll throw the white to the side, and you'll find whatever color you chose next. I'm choosing this blue, and if it doesn't agree with you at first, it's okay. You're going to make it end up agreeing with you, because as you tie the knots, it'll put it back into the order that you like it. So again, we just take the orange, do the 4 around the blue, and pull it all the way up, making sure it's super tight and there's no like bubbles and stuff. And it takes a lot of practice to get it to where you can do what I've been doing with the little loops like that, but eventually it'll just kind of come easy to you and you'll be able to do it real quick. A lot of times I'll be watching TV or watching a YouTube video and I'll just be making the bracelets real fast. So I'll do that a few times. Once I'm happy with the length of that, I will put the blue over to the side with the white. And I'll just keep going down the line with my orange. And then making sure I do the same amount of knots on each of these strings. That way it looks uniform all the way down. And sometimes it does kind of tangle up a bit, so you gotta make sure it doesn't get all knotted up there for you. Otherwise, it makes it a lot more difficult to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this real quick. Alright, now that I'm done with the orange, I'm gonna see it grab the yellow in there. So I just pull on it a little bit and it'll fix itself. But I've got my orange layer right there, so then you go back to your first color, which was the one that you tied my orange, whatever color you chose, it would be the one that you tied it around first. So that was white for me. And then I'm going to grab the blue as well. And I'm going to repeat the whole process I did with the orange, just with the white this time. So I'll tie the knots around the blue, and then I'll move on to the next color, which is going to be my yellow. And you'll just do this over and over and over again until you're happy with the length. And then you'll end up getting something that looks a lot like this one or this one. You know, there's multiple examples of those on my wrist. When you're choosing your colors, it can be anything you want, but you have to make sure the string is as long as your arm. So that's going to be from your shoulder, so this was from my shoulder up here all the way down to my fingertips. And that will make sure that after you've looped it around enough, it'll be actually as long as your wrist, and you'll be able to tie it around nice and even. There's lots of other designs that I didn't go over today. You can find them online anywhere. They're really fun to do. and a great way to pass the time. I hope you learned something from this and that you're able to do this at home. I hope you enjoyed.